back to Techno Poverty. Henry here, saying we'll be with you in just a moment. We've been chatting about the Three Sigma of Palmer Eldritch. We've been chatting about the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. That's Philip K. Dick and Walter Benjamin for you. We're going to be reading Ursula K. Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas in a moment here. But before that, let's get back to the game. Jacob.
What's up?
We're playing what I believe is called Elysium's End or Elysium's Curse. Let me check the research here. This is Elysium's Curse. This is one that caught Jacob's eye, and Jacob wheeled us into this form of hell. I'm excited to see where his wandering eye has taken us in this cursed land. Elysium, like Elysium Fields, the afterlife, where once again in some form of the post-mortal or the post-physical, we are pure aura, I guess, if we're going to go in H. John Benjamin terms. H. John Benjamin, Walter Benjamin, those are different actors. But this was an honorable mention at the CACO Awards in 2022. It is only 6 episodes. It is only 6 levels, I believe. It is just episode 1 of a bigger project that is yet to be completed, but the visuals interested us, so we're going to go for those. Or more importantly, I think Jacob is going to go for those. I'm going to read.
All right.
But chat, I'm going to, in spectate mode, yeah, look at this map. This is far from hell. This is quite beautiful, quite Elysian. Jacob, have fun with that. I'm going to read to the chat, boys and gals.
Yeah, you got it.
Welcome back. Hope y'all are doing great tonight. Speaking of wandering hellish zones and spaces constructed of the mind, I think we're going to watch Mulholland Drive next Sunday.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Central Time on the Discord. For those who are just joining us, we show movies pretty regularly on the Discord. I think I have it set up now to, if you use your subscription or your Prime subscription on Twitch, you will get access to the Discord if you're not interested in going through Patreon or Ko-fi. So go ahead and take a look at all that. Also, subbed or not, follow or not, there should be some emotes you can use in the chat as well. There's separate tiers, but mess with that. I'm going to bring up our Ursula K. Le Guin, and we're just gonna get to reading.
Heck yeah. Damn, no jumping? You got it then. You dirty son of a bitch.
Oh, I know you like that jumping. Well,
Yeah,
constraints, Jacob. Constraints.
truly.
The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin from The Wind's 12 Quarters. With a clamor of bells that set the swallows soaring, the festival of summer came to the city Omelas, bright towering by the sea. The ringing of the boats in harbor sparkled with flags. In the streets between houses with red roofs and painted walls, between old moss-grown gardens and under avenues of trees, past great parks and public buildings, processions moved. Some were decorous, old people in long, stiff robes of mauve and gray, grave master workmen, quiet, merry women carrying their babies and chatting as they walked. In other streets, the music beat faster, a shimmering of gong and tambourine, and the people went dancing. The procession was a dance. Children dodged in and out, their high calls rising like the swallows crossing flights, over the music and the singing. All the processions wound towards the north side of the city, where on the great water meadow called the Green Fields, boys and girls, naked in bright air with mud-stained feet and ankles long, lithe arms, exercised their restive horses before the race. The horses wore no gear at all, but a halter without bit. Their manes were braided with streamers of silver, gold and green. They flared their nostrils and pranced and boasted to one another. They were vastly excited, the horse being the only animal who has adopted our ceremonies as his own. Far off to the north and west, the mountains stood up, half encircling Omelas on her bay. The air of morning was so clear that the snow still crowning the 18 peaks burned with white gold fire across the miles of sunlit air, under the dark blue of the sky. There was just enough wind to make the banners that marked the race course snap and flutter now and then. In the silence of the broad green meadows, one could hear the music winding throughout the city streets, farther and nearer and ever approaching. A cheerful faint sweetness of the air from time to time trembled, and gathered together, and broke out into the great joyous clanging of the bells. Joyous! How is one to tell about joy? How describe the citizens of Omelas? They were not simple folk, you see, though they were happy. But we do not say the words of cheer much anymore. All similes have become archaic. Given a description such as this one tends to make certain assumptions. Given a description such as this, one tends to look next for the king, mounted on a splendid stallion and surrounded by his noble knights, or perhaps in a golden litter borne by great muscled slaves. But there was no king. They did not use swords, or keep slaves. They were not barbarians. I do not know the rules and laws of their society, but I suspect that they were singularly few. As they did without monarchy and slavery, so they also got on without the stock exchange, the advertisement, the secret police, and the bomb. Yet I repeat that these were not simple folk, not dulcet shepherds, noble savages, bland utopians. They were not less complex than us. The trouble is that we have a bad habit, encouraged by pedants and sophisticates, of considering happiness is something rather stupid. Only pain is intellectual, only evil interesting. This is the treason of the artist, a refusal to admit the banality of evil and the terrible boredom of pain. If you can't lick 'em, join 'em. If it hurts, repeat it. But to praise despair is to condemn delight. To embrace violence is to lose hold of everything else. We have almost lost hold. We can no longer describe happy man, nor make any celebration of joy. How can I tell you about the people of Omelas? They were not naive and happy children, though their children were in fact happy. They were mature, intelligent, passionate adults, whose lives were not wretched. Oh, miracle! But I wish I could describe it better. I wish I could convince you. Omelas sounds, in my words, like a city in a fairy tale, long ago and far away, once upon a time. Perhaps it would be best if you imagined it as your own fancy bids, assuming it will rise to the occasion, for certainly I cannot suit you all. For instance, how about technology? I think that there would be no cars or helicopters in and above the streets. This follows from the fact that the people of Omelas are happy people. Happiness is based on a just discrimination of what is necessary, what is neither necessary nor destructive, and what is destructive. In the middle category, however, that of the unnecessary but undestructive, that of comfort, luxury, exuberance, etc., they could perfectly well have central heating, subway trains, washing machines, and all kinds of marvelous devices not yet invented here, floating light sources, fuelless power, a cure for the common cold. Or they could have none of that. It doesn't matter. As you like it, I incline to think that people from towns up and down the coast had been coming to Omelas during the last days before the festival on very fast little trains and double-decked trams, and that the train stations of Omelas is actually the handsomest building in town, though plainer than the magnificent farmers' market. But even granted trains, I fear that Omelas so far strikes some of you as goody-goody. Smiles, bells, parades, horses, blah. If so, please add an orgy. If an orgy would help, don't hesitate. Let us not, however, have temples from which issue beautiful nude priests and priestesses already half in ecstasy and ready to copulate with any man or woman, lover or stranger, who desires union with the deep godhead of the blood, although that was my first idea. But really it would be better not to have any temples in Omelas, at least not manned temples. Religion, yes. Clergy, no. Surely the beautiful nudes can just wander about, offering themselves like divine soufflés to the hunger of the needy and the rapture of the flesh. Let them join the processions. Let tambourines be struck about the copulations, and the glory of desire be proclaimed upon the gongs. And, a not unimportant point, let the offspring of these delightful rituals be beloved and looked after by all. One thing I know there is none of in Omelas is guilt. But what else should there be? I thought at first there were no drugs, but that is puritanical. For those who like it, the faint, insistent sweetness of Druze may perfume the ways of the city. Druse, which first brings great lightness and brilliance to the mind and limbs, and then after some hours of dreamy languor, wonderful visions at last of the very arcane and inmost secrets of the universe, as well as exciting the pleasure of sex beyond all belief, and it's not habit-forming. For more modest taste, I think there ought to be beer. What else? What else belongs in the joyous city? The sense of victory, surely. The celebration of courage. But as we did without clergy, let us do without soldiers. The joy built upon successful slaughter is not the right kind of joy. It will not do. It is fearful and it is trivial. A boundless and generous contentment, a magnanimous triumph felt not against some outer enemy, but in communion with the finest and fairest in the souls of all men everywhere and the splendor of the world's summer. This is what swells in the hearts of people of Omelas, and the victory they celebrate is that of life. I don't think many of them need to take Druse. Most of the processions have reached the green fields by now. A marvelous smell of cooking goes forth from the red and blue tints of the provisioners. The faces of small children are amiably sticky. In the benign gray beard of a man, a couple of crumbs of rich pastry are entangled. The youths and girls have mounted their horses and are beginning to group around the starting line of a course. An old woman, small, fat, and laughing, is passing out flowers from a basket, and tall young men wear her flowers in their shining hair. A child of 9 or 10 sits at the edge of the crowd alone, playing on a wooden flute. People pause to listen, and they smile, but they do not speak to him, for he never ceases playing and never sees them, his dark eyes wholly wrapped in the sweet thing of magic of the tune. He finishes and slowly lowers his hands, holding the wooden flute. As if that little private silence were the signal, all at once a trumpet sounds from the pavilion near the starting line, imperious, melancholy, piercing. The horses rear on their slender legs, and some of them neigh in answer. Sober-faced, the young riders stroke the horses' necks and soothe them, whispering, "Quiet, quiet there, my beauty, my hope." They begin to form in rank along the starting line. The crowds along the race course are like a field of grass and flowers in the wind. The festival of summer has begun. Do you believe? Do you accept the festival? The city? The joy? No? Then let me describe one more thing. In a basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Omelas, or perhaps in the cellar of one of its spacious private homes, there is a room. It has one locked door and no window. A little light sleeps in dustily between cracks in the boards, second-hand from the cobweb window somewhere across the cellar. In one corner of the little room, a couple of mops, with stiff, clotted, foul-smelling heads, stand near a rusty bucket. The floor is dirt, a little damp on the touch, as cellar dirt usually is. The room's about 3 paces long and 2 wide, a mere broom closet, or disused tool room. In the room, a child is sitting. It could be a boy or a girl. It looks about 6, but actually is nearly 10. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. It picks its nose occasionally and fumbles vaguely with its toes or genitals, as it sits hunched in the corner furthest from the bucket and the 2 mops. It is afraid of the mops. It finds them horrible. It shuts its eyes, but it knows the mops are still standing there, and the door is locked, and nobody will come. The door is always locked, and nobody ever comes. Except that sometimes, the child has no understanding of time or interval. Sometimes the door rattles terribly and opens, and a person, or several people, are there. One of them may come in and kick the child to make it stand up. The others never come close, but peer in at it with frightened, disgusted eyes. The food bowl and the water jug are hastily filled. The door is locked. The eyes disappear. The people at the door never say anything, but the child, who's not always lived in the tool room and can remember the sunlight and its mother's voice, sometimes speaks. "I will be good," it says. "Please let me out. I will be good." They never answer. The child used to scream for help at night and cry a good deal, but now it only makes a kind of whining, yeah, and it speaks less and less often. It is so thin that there are no calves to its legs. Its belly protrudes. It lives on a half bowl of cornmeal and grease. It is naked. Its buttocks and thighs are a mass of festered sores, as it sits in its own excrement continually. They all know it's there, the people of Omelas. Some of them have come to see it. Others are content merely to know it is there. They all know that it has to be there. Some of them understand why, and some do not. But they all understand that their happiness, the beauty of their city, the tenderness of their friendships, the health of their children, the wisdom of the scholars, the skill of their makers, even the abundance of their harvest and kindly weathers of their skies, depend wholly on this child's abominable misery. This is usually explained to children when they are between 8 and 12, whenever they seem capable of understanding, and most of those who come to see the child are young people, though often enough an adult comes, or comes back, to see the child. No matter how well the matter has been explained to them, these young spectators are always shocked and sickened at the sight. They feel disgust, which they had thought themselves superior to. They feel anger, outrage, impotence, despite all the explanations. They would like to do something for the child, but there is nothing they can do. If the child were brought up into the sunlight out of that vile place, if it were cleaned and fed and comforted, that would be a good thing indeed. But if it were done, in that day and hour, all the prosperity and beauty and delight of Omelas would wither and be destroyed. Those are the terms. To exchange all the goodness and grace of every life in Omelas for that single, small improvement. To throw away the happiness of thousands for the chance of happiness of one. That would be to let guilt within the walls indeed. The terms are strict and absolute. There may not even be a kind word spoken to the child. Often the young people go home in tears, or in a tearless rage, when they have seen the child and faced the terrible paradox. They may brood over it for weeks and years. But as time goes on, they begin to realize that even if the child could be released, it would not get much good of its freedom. A little vague pleasure of warmth and food, no real doubt, but little more. It's too degraded and imbecile to know any real joy. It has been afraid for too long to even be free of fear. Its habits are too uncouth for the people to respond with humane treatment. Indeed, after so long, it would probably be wretched without walls about it to protect it, and darkness for its eyes, and its own excrement to sit on. Their tears at the bitter injustice dry, and they begin to perceive the terrible justice of reality, and to accept it. Yet it is their tears and anger, the trying of their generosity and the acceptance of the helplessness, which are perhaps the true source of the splendor of their lives. Theirs is no vapid, irresponsible happiness. They know that they, like the child, are not free. They know compassion. It is the existence of the child, and their knowledge of its existence, that makes possible the nobility of their architecture, the poignancy of their music, the profundity of their science. It is because of the child that they are so gentle with children. They know that if the wretched one were not there sniveling in the dark, the other one, the flute player, could make no joyful music as the young riders line up in their beauty for the race in the sunlight of the first morning summer. Now do you believe them? Are they not more credible? But there is one more thing to tell, and this is quite incredible. At times, one of the adolescent girls or boys who go to see the child does not go home to weep or rage, does not, in fact, go home at all. Sometimes also, a man or a woman much older falls silent for a day or two, then leaves home. These people go out into the street and walk down the street alone. They keep walking, and they walk straight out of the city of Omelas, through the beautiful gates. They keep walking across the farmlands of Omelas. Each one goes alone, youth or girl, man or woman. Night falls. The traveler must pass down village streets, between the houses with yellow-lit windows, and out into the darkness of the fields. Each alone. They go west or north towards the mountains. They go on. They leave Omelas. They walk ahead into the darkness, and they do not come back. The place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the City of Happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist, but they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. Jacob.
Yeah.
How's the map going?
You know, I'm kind of stuck in this spot, and I can't tell whether it's me or the game.
Well, I'm contemplating my position in Omelas right now. How do you feel about ritual child sacrifice? Or abuse as child sacrifice? to get light with it.
To get light with it, seems like it's always been a part of life. Given all the horrible things going on in this terrible world. I see no use for it, but, you know, I hold no position of power either, so I guess there's that.
Yeah, there is that.
I'm against it, you know, on the whole, if, you know, goes without saying, but apparently not nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like with these, you know, the Epstein of it all to get around, as we talked about before the break with Omelas, I'm not going to try to solve the problem of Omelas and be like, well, this is how you should feel about Omelas. I gotta explore this damn map and help my bro out, first off. But to get to the Epstein of it all and kind of less questioning Omelas, I think it's quite clear what it's getting at with us sitting within the belly of a machine and knowing that machine is starving. How do people get to open the door? Do people see the door? To get literal with it for a moment, the way there's a ritual viewing of the door in LeGuin's story. I think, I don't know, because it requires so much. Just I was about to ask Jake, when did you realize America was evil? Or
oh man. That we were the evil empire.
Right, because I'm like to get even to like the 9/11 of it all. I've always seen criticism like we were born post 60s, post boomer, hippie, Nixon cynicism. Reagan had kind of already entrenched the culture war of don't trust the government. So I feel like we were born into an age of skepticism. So I wonder, just
for sure, because I've got. Well, we both have boomer parents in that range, and they definitely have like a certain distrust of certain authorities, but not of all, which is also a very interesting thing.
Right, we were raised by people who saw the JFK assassination, and I think that tells us a lot, both about their approach to like politics and political narrative, but also like the omni-narrative of broadcast TV. Oh, Philly Man in the chat says, it reminds me of the problem of how do we function in a world knowing that children are suffering in some parts of the world from things like starvation or disease that have solutions, but no one did anything. It's weirdly message we can't solve these things because it would risk our cushy lifestyles. Yeah, and this is why I was bringing up hive mind earlier, is like the cushy lifestyle aspect and like understanding the limits or barriers to like why we feel powerless or inactive. And I don't know, I even feel at this point like there is that post 9/11 cynicism of like we are the bad guys, right? But yeah, Jacob, your experience with that, because like I think something the collective action thing got me questioning was like my relation with NAFTA versus other people's relations with NAFTA based on where they grew up. But yeah,
NAFTA was definitely not even on my radar, even though we're kind of near the Canadian border, I suppose. Yeah, but just never a thing. But I think my father always had a healthy distrust of authority figures and always framed things as just people in costumes.
People in costumes.
He lived that. Yeah, it's a cop costume. It's a judge costume. It's these people are people, and they will say they have authorities or they have
the legal drag of the world.
Yes, exactly. the kayfabe of the world. The we're all actors. The world's a stage. So it definitely kind of like framed things probably not the best way as a young developing child with authority figures in their life, but you know.
Well, see,
here's
something too, because this gets into how I'm curious people come into their understanding of these things, because when it comes to media criticism and stuff like that, I know there's arguments for things as entry points and such. I'm gonna sound like I'm ragging on Andor again, or even on Superman, but like I know you haven't seen like certain things that I have, like even beyond like the pop culture things, like just read certain things, experienced certain things, but like we've come to similar political conclusions, not through like rigorous academic action, But I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm curious about like intuitive understanding of these things. I mean, I've done a lot of self-reading, but I've also tempered that with, I guess, just real life experiences. I don't know what the secret sauce is that brings these conclusions together.
Right? Yeah. You bring up a really interesting point, because it is interesting how we came to very similar conclusions in different ways. And I've also had the same questions because there are people I grew up around that I was just like, how do you not see things the exact same way that, like, with people who taught me things, I'm like, how do you not see this? You're the one who showed me these ideas.
Yes.
Or at least we're like a grasp of it. I know I definitely realized when I was younger that, like, homelessness is perpetuated to keep us, like, in line. And that's why it's not solved. I definitely remember understanding that as a younger person.
Alright, how does this yellow key card drop on down?
Right? I don't know how. I feel like, so this is what I was thinking. I'm not sure, because maybe this one isn't supposed to be a multiplayer thing. But I was in this courtyard for a second, but then it locked me out after I died.
Oh, do you think maybe we're
like,
locked out something?
Yeah, potentially. But again, sometimes I'm just bad at video games, so I also understand that. Yeah, the fear of losing something creates inaction. Yeah. America also has this really interesting idea of just, like, it's someone else's problem. Like, if you're not, you have so much individualism that you are only able to stay in your lane, that, like, you won't, like, pick up trash that's not yours kind of thing, or just do very simple things that would like, really don't cost any, like, much effort, if at all, but would, like, improve everybody's time around you. And we are dissuaded from that in every possible way. It's like, that's bad.
There's like a ledge it might be able to run off of if you get up to, but I don't see how to get up to it.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it goes through that door, because down that way is the gate that I feel like I may have gotten locked out of. I'm like trying to see if maybe there's like another guy I need to kill in order to get through there or something. I don't know.
I was also worried about compatibility stuff with loading up this one, so I do have a backup wad if we want to call it.
Yeah.
Although I think, can I next level? Oh, only the server can change the
Let us in! Let us in! Life is memes.
Oh no. Alright. I'm gonna give it one more honest sniff around, and then we will debate what to do.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what it wants me to do, but it don't like me. Music is great, though. I will say that.
Yeah, and Philly Man, I do think that is a very real question. Not so much like trying to solve the riddle of the story, but like a question you could posit towards like how can you approach, quote unquote, like change, or what can you effectively do within your current bounds that, even if I don't necessarily isn't uncomfortable, but like is possible within what you have.
Yeah, no, not necessarily an overextension of something, but...
And Philly Man, I agree when you say, weirdly, I think church Christian culture teaches being involved in your community, but then most times the message gets twisted or the action remains contained within the Christian community. I see a lot of these good ideas come from those groups, but it never leaves those groups. Yeah, I think one of the things beyond you have to get beyond with, like, being an atheist or agnostic type is understanding that religion is both like very entwined with the historical motivations of societies and worth studying for like that purpose, and also operating on very real like human religious and emotional impulses as far as what they believe to be sacred and real and worth preserving as culture in the highest regards over times, like literally like given from God stuff. Like the fact that huge groups and populations and cultures are religious and guided by religious impulses and ideas is why religion is worth studying beyond. To get again to this form of criticism I'm always making distinction from, you're not treating the text as real necessarily, but you're still respectful of its kind of like historical context and interplay and the sociology of it all, both within the craft and story of the thing, but in the crafting and the biography of the creators of the thing.
Yeah.
Which is, again, why that Collective Action Comics podcast is so great. And why LeGuin is so great. Left Hand of Darkness raises this question of presence over progress that in examining the way you approach conversations and conflicts. That also straddles the line of this tension that Omelas is straddling, where it's like, how do you perceive things, and how do you approach things, and how can you fix that if it's upsetting or at conflict with yourself? If you're living in bad faith, which is also kind of the point of I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
The living in better faith with yourself.
Being true to yourself. Whatever that might mean.
Oh, interesting, Josh Foreman. How do we function in a world knowing that children are suffering in some parts of the world? Check this out. Please share that in the Discord as well. I'd like to check in on that later.
Yeah, same. Like I can't really click it at the moment, but that would be very, very cool. Thank you for seeing.
And you know what? I think we're gonna fire up the other wad we have on deck.
I'm not against that because
yeah.
I'm at a loss.
I was interested in the aesthetic of this one, but I did notice when acquiring it, it had some compatibility issues and it was incomplete. So this is Elysium's Curse. It still looks really great. I do want to give a shout out really quick to Reddit user udom6495. Yes, dom6495. Jacob and I saw this when going through a YouTube compilation of Doom wads worth checking out, and we couldn't find the source wad in its original spot, and after some Googling and Reddit diving, we were able to find it thanks to that user. So shout out once again to udom6495 for finding this for us. I'm going to hit that break time screen, but we're going to be as fast as possible. We're not going to get up or anything. We're just going to swap out the game wads and start a fresh campaign. So we will be right back.
See you very shortly.